and welcome to Learning Music with Pat. Today I'm going to start off by showing you typical instruments that I use when I'm teaching music. I've mentioned these many times. I've brought them in before. There's nothing new that you haven't seen, but I just want to bring you in the typical woodwind instruments, melody flutes that I use, and of course the recorder I specialize in. And it's a beautiful instrument. It is not a toy. It can play marvelous music. It can play a lot of music. Easy to blow, and most of them are right directly in pitch like they should be. Very nice instruments. Now you can get those that are student models. I have a student model here. This is an LMI. It's brown. It has a tendency to play a tiny, tiny bit flat. I mean, if you're not a musician and you don't have a good sense of tonal qualities, you might even miss it, but I don't miss it. Now, you probably don't notice any difference between that and the other recorder that I played. But if I was playing long term, if I was playing with music in front of me, I might notice that it might be just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit flat, but not much. Then, of course, I want to go into the flutophones. I like the flutophones. They have a good tonal quality, and you can get them in white with red trim or black with white trim. They sound exactly alike. And in the back, they do have a tone hole in the back like the recorders do, and they have a little place, you can probably see it on the white one better, where you put your thumb. It's just a little form. You hook your thumb on it. Now, the recorders don't have that. But this instrument can only do one octave, maybe one octave and one note. I'm just going to play it to review with you what it sounds like. But I like the quality of tones that they have. Now, I can get one more note just by releasing the thumb from the tone hole in the back. But I can't do an octave. It just won't do it. All I get is a whistle. Now, on a recorder, this is the fingering for an E, and this is in the key of C like the recorder. If I did a half hole in back, I would get an automatic octave. These instruments just don't do that. You just get a squeal instead. But those are the flutophones. Other instruments that I have used quite a bit, this is a song flute. It comes to a point. It doesn't have a bell. Any instrument that flares out on the end of it, that's considered to be the bell. But it has a pretty good tone. That's that low C. And here again, I think I can get one more note. But no octave. You're going to do the same kind of squeal that the flutophone does. Nonetheless, you can get a lot of good music out of a one-octave instrument. The tonette always comes in black. It does have a tone hole in the back, and maybe it helps stabilize the notes, but there's no second octave. It has a couple of little... There's a little round area here. It may not even come out on the screen. You may not be able to see it. It's where you put your right thumb. And this here, these are the tone holes in the front, which I imagine you can't see very well either. But there's a little round area here where you put your little finger. It's not a tone hole. It won't get you a note, but it's a place to rest your finger. You know, otherwise your fingers could be flying around. I'll try for that one extra note. but there's no such thing as a second octave, because what you're going to get is the same as the other ones, just that squeal. You know, you can't do it. And then, of course, there are other melody instruments, the sassoon flute. This is a C, and it does not have a tone hole in the back, so it pitches a little different. This is a 2-octave instrument. I've used it a lot. I can't tell you how much I've used it. I've used it so much that I actually have worn out part of the mouthpiece. I really need to get another one. But this plays so beautifully, but I should get another one, I suppose. But it's all white here. The black paint has come off, or whatever they cover it with has come off. But that's a sassoon 2-octave range. This is a penny whistle, 2-octave range. I've played a lot of music. Now, these come in different sizes and different colors, so you can get very large and very small little ones for the penny whistle, also called the Irish flute, but they're made in Great Britain, and this is a generation, and I've done a lot of work with it. It's in the key of D, it's not in the key of C, but because it doesn't have a tone hole in the back, it pitches down so that if I'm playing something, and this is in the key of D, if I use the same figurants as I do for a C instrument, it sounds like it's in the key of C, so that's a little trick that I need to remember. And there are many other little melody flutes. I brought in this. This is a Pearl Piper. The Pearl Piper, I paid $1.98 for this, and it plays perfectly in the key of E flat. And I never knew that was going to happen. I was with a friend of mine in a store, and we were walking along, and she's not into music like I am, but she's interested in seeing what I do. And she picked this up. I didn't see it. She says, "What do you call this?" And I said, "I call it mine." And I grabbed it and bought it. But it has a remarkable tone for $1.98. It has a 2-octave range. The higher octave is really squealy, but it is a nice little instrument for $1.98. That's your 2-octave range. So, and it's a Pearl Piper, and it's sold kind of like a toy. There are a lot of instruments like this. They look like penny whistles and recorders. They're a straight body on them. Some of them come to a point so that they would be conical instead of cylindrical, but many of them just go straight down. You have your tone holes, you have your mouthpiece, and you just blow into it, and it plays. Some of them are off key, some of them you don't know what key they wanted to play it to begin with, but it makes sounds, and this is one of the better ones. But there are a lot of them. I have them in all different colors, pink, blue, you name it, green, and sometimes I bring them out just to show the color, but they do play. So these are what I normally use when I'm teaching: recorders, sassutos, penny whistles, song flutes, tonettes, and melody-like instruments that I lump together, and I just call them the melody flutes. So, and there is a remarkable similarity to all of them, because all of them have a mouthpiece. Let me take the recorder for this. All of them have a mouthpiece that's similar to what we call a fipple mouthpiece. This up here is called the fipple. That's the fipple mouthpiece, and it has the block at the back, and I can see it from here on the monitor. It's a little darker colored than the regular instrument is. It's more like a light beige, and a lot of them have a little bit different color, but some of them are the same, you know, and then you have your tone holes in the front. They're very, very similar. And then it's just a case of adding notes. And then, of course, your second octave. You can get a lot of music, and the instruments are like very similar to this. And so what I teach on one can be applied to a lot of the other instruments. So I'm going to show you some things now that I have some charts, and I want to show you some things generally about music. And by the way, while I think of it, when I'm holding the recorder, your left hand goes on top, your right hand goes on the bottom, the mouthpiece goes about a third of the way in your mouth, your top teeth actually make contact with the mouthpiece, your bottom teeth are covered by your lower lip, and it's your lower lip that makes contact with the mouthpiece from underneath it. And then when you blow, you need to squeeze your lips together, squeeze the mouth together. The muscles that you use in playing and forming around the mouthpiece is called an embouchure. Different instruments have different embouchures, which is why people who play brass should not play woodwinds, and people who play woodwinds should not play brass. It's hard to do both because you're going to weaken your embouchure from both because different muscles are used. And if you are used to a woodwind mouthpiece, your muscles are all built up for that so you can play for hours at a time. Not when you're first beginning, but as you get stronger, then your muscles really take shape for that. You're not going to look any different as a person, but the muscles are trained for that. If you're playing brass, the muscles that you use are different, and they will weaken the embouchure for the woodwinds. And if you're playing woodwinds and you are basically a brass player, you're going to find that your embouchure is weakened for the brass. So you really should not mix the two. I know people who do it and they somehow manage, but it's not a good thing to do for most people. Most people would find that their embouchures will be weak, they won't be able to play as long, and when you find your embouchure is weak, it doesn't feel good, you're not having pain, but it doesn't seem to want to hold position. You stop immediately and rest. You're not going to gain anything by forcing your lips to play something that they can't do. You're only going to further weaken them. So I keep warning people about that. I was in a restaurant and a little child came in and we were talking about music. I didn't know these people, but they knew that, you know, we would get to talking about music, and she was playing clarinet or something, and she wanted to play trombone. So I told the father the problems of switching embouchures, so he would encourage her not to play a brass and a woodwind. He did not know that, of course, but why would you? You know, you'd learn by experience. Well, let me get to these charts. Here I'm going from a high D down to the C, and a C down up to that high D again. Now, this is the middle C right here. It comes halfway between the upper and the lower registers. If I had regular music here, this is just a scale, and what I did was I put the notes in, and the fingerings of each note label the note. So this is an E, this is how you finger it. This is where it is on the staff. This is a G, this is how you finger it. And the tone hole, the little circles beside on the left, is the tone hole in the back of the instrument. There's no way of showing it, of course, so I just add that. And it tells you whether your tone holes are going to be open like it is for this D, or whether that's going to be closed. So this is sometimes what I use in general scale work for beginning musicians. Now, on this one, what I did was I took the scale from low C or middle C, and I put it, oh yeah, good, we can get that close maybe, and see how that works out. Ah, perfect. C, low C, that's actually middle C. Here it is on the keyboard. This is the note. This is where it is on the keyboard, and this is the fingering on it on a recorder. And I've done that for 2 octaves, low C to the mid-range C right here, and for the high C, and you notice that high C has the two ledger lines. It has one through the note and one underneath the note. When you see that, you know that that's going to be the high C. And the recorders can play all of these notes. Now, it doesn't look like much when you cram it on one single piece of paper, but that's a 2-octave range. So you get the combination. You know, here's the D. This is how you play it. This is a higher D. This is where it is on the staff. And when I do things like this, and I give a notebook to every student that I have with all of this information in it,